Be daring, be different, or be decisive. That's something my dad taught me when I was a kid, and I never understood it until I lost my dad. And he used to say it all the fucking time, and I didn't ever fucking get it. But I now understand. My dad came from nothing. He used to live in an old mining village where you go and sell antiques and fucking crockery, where my dad was a creative director of Jaguar Land Rover by the end of it, and he went through some mad shit, and he lived by that. And I watched him. I don't tell people. Everyone will say their dad's an animal and they're their favorite person, but fucking, my dad was a tough motherfucker, man. He went through so many redundancies, helping my bringing my family. My mum's a tough lady too. I was about to call my mum a tough bitch then. I can call her that, but I won't call her that. She's a fucking animal as well. But yeah, be daring, be different, and be decisive, mate. If I'm ever stuck, I've got it written there. That's what I live on.
Welcome to the Man Alive podcast, where every man has a story. Real journeys, honest truths, and sharing victories through adversity. This is Man Alive.
Sam.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Man Alive podcast. Today I'm delighted to welcome Will Foden. Will is a former professional rugby player and now a high performance coach and high performance partner to leaders under pressure. Will is also a father to George and a husband to Rachel. Will is one tough mother, I would consider. And I am delighted to have met him both in person and obviously we have him here now at the moment as well. Will, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm very well, mate. Thank you very much for a kind introduction, man. It's funny how time flies, mate. I feel like I've known you for even longer, but yeah, it's been a few years that we've known. It's been great. So it's been awesome to watch your evolution inside this space too.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'll never forget. Obviously, the first time we met was over in Ibiza at a coach's workshop seminar. And I remember you were chatting to Shane O'Leary, which is another mutual friend of ours. And I just remember being mesmerized. It's like, this lad has like had so many injuries, just one tough geezer like as well, and we'll touch base on some of them as well. But I was just like, oh, this guy is just as hard as a wall there. Like, he's fucking unit.
My story is I've got a bit of a colourful background, put it that way. I think that, again, hopefully I can give somebody else some strength with if I can.
Yeah, sweet. Because I obviously know a little bit about Jenny as well, and just some of the stories that you're able to tell, but also with passion and just the strength that you've shown through adversity is something that a lot of lads listening to this can definitely relate to as well. Like, so again, really appreciate your time with this, Will. Let's take it right back in here. Take us back to rugby days, I suppose. What chapter of your life, or what did that chapter of your life, I suppose, teach you, and what still kind of shows up for you today when you coach leaders and consultants?
What did rugby teach me? Stick your face where everyone's feet are. That's what rugby taught me, and that's probably why my face is so beaten up. Rugby has been the catalyst to everything in my life. From not only from relationships, physical performance, emotional regulation, to my leadership practice personally, professionally, and how I suppose I lead my family. I think that's something that men struggle with big time, is that they disassociate that my personal opinion is that finding your reason on the planet seems to be quite easy verbally, but physically doing it is a very different ballgame. And I think rugby taught me a lot of lessons in how to lead myself. Played at various different levels, professionally, semi-professionally, county. I was always the guy who was very, very close to international honours, but I was always on the call-up list. Oh, you're going to get called up. I never made it, unfortunately. But rugby itself, it was the only way I could express myself, man. Like nothing compares to being right in the middle of a war. And I don't know, it was a very gladiatorial thing. If I'm being very honest, happy to go this probably later on in the podcast of why I was in rugby, but it made me feel adequate, and it made me feel like I was competitive, and it gave me that challenge. It also was a place for me to vent my emotion. I was very emotional when I was younger. I played very high level tennis. I was on road to Wimbledon when I was 15. I was picking rugby or tennis basically, and I got fucking smashed on my first game, 6-1, 6-love. And I just walked back to my dad. I was like, Dad, I haven't got this. I used to play at Wasps when I was a kid. Yeah. And I said, tennis isn't for me. And where I was in London, I was destined to be. People I was hanging about with were doing dumb things, and I was lucky to have a very strong family unit that if I was being an idiot, I got corrected very quickly and pushed into sport, to be honest. But yeah, rugby was a vessel, mate. It was a vessel for me to express myself, and probably there's so many deep lessons around self-discovery, I think, because you find out who you truly are when you're. Again, my company's called Built for Pressure. The reason why it's called that is because I was always fascinated by seeing somebody like fully express their capacity. It was I don't know, it was weird. Like cliche, people say show you their potential, this kind of stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, but why are there some people can just operate and fucking send it, and they're calm, collected, focused, and they dominate, or like a granny shitting over a nursing home, mate, just random as fuck and just struggling and reactive. And it's just, yeah, that really, really interested me. But rugby was definitely the prerequisite to everything else that I'm doing now.
Yeah, sweet. I mean, like you touched base on there, rugby being for everyone really, and it's like it's a sport for all shapes and sizes, like from the small chubby fat kid to the little skinny guy, and you see now like Louis Bierre is being hyped up now because he's not even 80 kg, and yet he's probably the best international rugby player now at the moment. And you take the opposite end of the spectrum to that, to the 130, 140 kg prop in the front row, who's maybe struggled, but he has a place on the rugby pitch as well. Like, and it is a sport for everyone, and I would totally resonate with that too. Because I think for me, and I suppose for anyone in Ireland that would have played like GA growing up, so hurling football or your Irish Gaelic game sports, and it's really based around fitness. If you're fast, if you're skillful, and I was none of those things. And I always remember my dad taking me to a rugby game. My grandmother was actually going into the hospital, so my granny took my grandmother into the hospital, and we were close enough to a rugby pitch. It was actually Nina at the time, funnily enough, the team that I finished playing with there last year. And he was like, "Oh, there's a game on over there. I'll take you over there." And I was just mesmerised at the start. And he was like, "Look, I'll take you down to my hometown club, Thurles, next week, whatever." Used to train every Saturday morning until I think was it like under 14s or whatever. And mother was just like, "Oh, mind him now, make sure he's okay," or whatever. And then dad brought me home, head to toe covered in muck, and she was like, "Jesus, what are we after getting him into?" This little guy is just like found his thing, like, and it just becomes an obsession because like you have that emotional outlet, and it's like no matter what's going on in your life, you can kind of like not necessarily suppose like physically take it out on someone. Now there probably has been times where you would maybe take it out on a geezer on the pitch.
My thing was I wanted to fuck somebody up, mate. I think it's I say this to everybody. I've worked with people who are in special forces, and I work with some people who have been involved in military capacities, and they'll always come back when they finish being deployed. They're like, "There's nothing like a firefight." Rugby for me was my version of a firefight. One of the best. I got goosebumps talking about it, mate. One of the best feelings I've ever had in my life, playing against Rosslyn Park for Hull. And this back row 7 started giving me shit, and I said, I just absolutely fucking melted him in front of the crowd, and he got abuse, and he came back round the corner straight again, thinking he could run over me, and I broke his ribs. Mate, I saw anyone's bored on YouTube, you'll see me whack this kid, and he's fucked. It was like I had a weird obsession by being violent, mate. But I was never violent off the pitch, like not at all. But on the pitch, I was horrible, mate. And there's a lot of internal dialogue of why that is, and I think that's something cool to go over later on reason why I finished rugby and I finished on my terms after injury and that kind of stuff. The premise of why I was doing it and how I played very much reflected my emotional state at that time, and I think that's quite a lot of people who are involved in the game. They don't understand the reasons why they're doing it. They just love it. But as they're getting of a certain age and there's other pressures on their life and they're starting to trying to figure themselves out more from who they are standpoint, that's where I think men are struggling at the moment, is because what used to drive you play rugby was for me when I started playing rugby. I said to my dad, it was weird. When I finished that tennis piece, I went home and I just said, "Dad, I don't feel alive. The only time I ever feel like time stops and I feel electric is when I run on a rugby pitch." And ironically, when I finished my career, I didn't have that feeling anymore. That's why I left. And luckily I did, because I was a fucking grenade. I think people haven't got that level of awareness, and it took me a lot to learn that level of awareness too. That wasn't just like I've seen your man upstairs and I've woken up to seeing the light on this shit. It wasn't that at all. It was the years of just feeling numb after playing. And I think that's where I decided it was enough. I got blindsided because I wasn't playing at the level I was. It wasn't anybody else's fault. It was me. But yeah, I think it's rugby's getting smashed on the media at the moment, and I don't take anything back, man. Like it built me, everything about it.
Yeah, totally resonated that. But let's take it back, I suppose, a small bit there to when you did retire. I'm lucky enough, I've kind of found my purpose a little bit as well, but I think even just looking at a lot of lads, when they do step away from sport, or even I suppose rugby in particular, like that, they do struggle a little bit. What was that, or how was that transition for you? And I suppose, what did you find was the hardest part, like stepping away from rugby?
Oof. The hardest part about leaving rugby. I think the hardest part, I'll start from now and I work my way back, so it might be a bit easier. Now I
Yeah,
miss the camaraderie, mate. I think men, especially as they get older, they forget that they're a tribal animal. Like there's nothing better than being in a team. And I used to coach Wanderers in Singapore. I went there and they were losing everything. And I literally said, the only thing I care about is I build a mob. I want a gang of men or people who want to fuck shit up and fight people, because I really resonated with that. And I think when I was leaving rugby, when I signed my, I basically, when I was, 17, 18, I signed for Gloucester Academy. Went into Gloucester Academy. The only thing I wanted was to play professionally. It didn't matter. Nothing else mattered. My education is in strength and conditioning, because I'm like the least genetically gifted athlete out there. My mum's a sausage. My dad is bow-legged as fuck. I had no gift apart from a massive head and an aggression problem. So got into Gloucester, and then I played semi-professionally at Cinderford and Stourbridge. At Cinderford, I was captain there for a few years, and then I actually started pro at Doncaster Knights in the Championship. They just come down from, they just got relegated. So this was my opportunity. 8 weeks later, I used to have a horse livery yard, and I my whole life I'd fought to have a professional rugby contract. And my ex-partner was lunging a horse. You know, in the cowboy films, and they've got a rope around their nose, and it's like they're going around them. Yeah, she was doing it with a youngster
yeah,
who turned on her and started trampling her. So I got involved, got an offer. The lunge leg wrapped around my leg, dragged me around the school. I had hold of its head and time stopped. And I thought, fucking, this thing's going to kick me. I turned around and it turned around. Both feet hit the side of my knee, dislocated my whole knee, ACL, PCL, and MCL gone. And I thought my career had gone. That's kind of the catalyst of where I sort of took hold of my life as a man. Like that's why I was saying that is the physical recovery was horrific, but the reality of why I was there was probably, it was of my doing. I was in a toxic relationship. We no longer wanted to be with each other, and I wasn't big enough to tell her to leave or for me to leave. Fast forward, overcame injury, played 10 months later, Cross Keys away, played 7 more years, pro and semi-pro. I moved to Singapore where I wasn't getting paid. I'd done my knee, and I swore to myself that I'd get on the pitch and I'd play at the highest level I could. Unfortunately didn't get into the Premiership, but I came back from an injury that people weren't coming back from. They told me I wasn't going to play it again ever. And then went to Hull, played over there, and I got into this. I was in cruise control, man. Went over and played in Australia, loved it with the boys at Manly, came back, and it was like I was always achievement driven. I wanted to go to, when I talk about capacity, it's like my personal capacity was like, what level can I actually play? I reached there from a place of finance. I was like, pro rugby, mate, shit money. Semi-pro rugby's shit money. And then I was juggling 3 jobs, different PT in the gym, doing PT in a car park, writing online programs for random Gladys with no teeth about broccoli problems because I needed the money. It was shit. And then I moved to Singapore, and leaving sport then was a case of, I actually got blind. I went there to play for Wanderers, and I actually got blindsided. I got someone hit. I was in a mall, and you see him on the camera. He's about 10 feet away. He just looks over his shoulder and runs and shoulder charges me into my ribs, blows my rib out my chest, which I've still got an osteocyte on now. And I came off the pitch not be able to breathe, and I thought I hadn't had that level of like sportsmanship for me was a big thing. Like if someone hit me as a tackle, it was all fair game, but someone does that, and I couldn't even get up and punch him because I was so fucked. It was going to affect my job. And I said the years before that, 2 years before that, I had this weird gut feeling that every time I got on a pitch, mate, it just felt like a chore. It was like, it's a Saturday, let's just do it. And I was going through the motions because I was still playing well, but it was just like I didn't have that level of like fire in my belly like I used to. Like when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, mate, I didn't give a fuck about anything but rugby, mate. Saturday was the only day of the week. Rest of it, I didn't care what was going on. When I left rugby, I left because it was purely that it was either stabilize my income. I moved to Singapore because I was so skinned. I moved there with 700 quid. I was fucked. And I went there and I was earning good money then when I moved there. I just saw the opportunity of, hang on, do you know what? Singapore rugby is not going to give me what I wanted, which was to play at the highest level. It's not like Hong Kong, where Hong Kong's got a professional scene where it's still really super high level. Singapore is still, it's not pub football, but it's Saturday rugby. And I was willing to explore the other side of my performance. Now, when I left, I didn't realize that the inner monster that I had needed to be fed. And about less than 2 months, I had a customer who was a fucking wanker because he was paying me lots of money. He was trying to tell me about getting lean, about how to be ketogenic. And I was I'm a nutritionist by trade, just so I was explaining to him why he wouldn't. And even though not these words, but what it was coming out was, I'm paying you, so shut the fuck up, basically. I'm right. And I nearly filled him in. And I mean, in Singapore, mind, if you start off scrap bait, you're getting put in prison. Yeah. So I didn't.
You're on banked abroad.
But I walked into the one championship gym and I said, I'm an idiot. And if I have a fight, I will get knocked out, because rugby boys can't fight, mate. People that fight in MMA, they can kick the shit out of you and they'll be 40 kilos lighter than you. So that was it. I tried jiu-jitsu, and that was the name of the game. That it fed that side of my inner athlete, that gave me that level of combat and confrontation without the suffering that rugby gave, which was, I've had my knee dislocated by a horse. Rugby was more superficial. I've had my ear ripped off twice, 300 stitches in my face, people's teeth stuck in my head, fucking broken fingers, broken wrist. It's all cuts and all. There's nothing, because that's what I said about my feet, where my head was everyone's feet were. But I had to acknowledge that I had to feed that beast. And I see what rugby players do is they leave the game and they forget they're an athlete. They go into some shitty corporate job wearing a suit they've bought from Next, trying to pretend that it's a Gucci suit, buying some shit watch because they're trying to fit in. But actually, what do they actually want? They want to laugh with their mates. They want to train hard. They want to feel like they've got a purpose and they've got a goal to attain. And they leave rugby and they forget that their whole life has been built around achievement, winning, camaraderie, team, resilience, all these big buzzwords. They just, that's why it's weird. You see some people, it's like people in the military. Some of people in the military turn into entrepreneurs and they make a fuckload of money. They vessel their professionalism and they absolutely send it. Others, fat, moaning, blaming the army for not helping them, all this other shit. The reality is, if you're going into any form of elite environment, you're going to come out a mess because you're doing something so out of the ordinary. So that's where I found was, it took me a long time and I had a lot of help. I invested a lot of money in help post rugby. That wasn't like an epiphany that I woke up and thought, fuck it, I'm fine. It was the opposite. I've spent thousands on mental performance coaching, NLP coaching, leadership performance counseling, mental skills coaching, therapy. I've had therapy, but that was for a personal reason, for me losing my dad, not for rugby. I value, people forget that the reality is that this bigger pedigree gets you in the door, but the thing that separates you is self-awareness and self-management, mate. That's the thing that separates people that are smashing it and people that aren't.
Yeah, that's mega. Like, I mean, you touched a lot there, I suppose, on both physical pain, financial pain, emotional pain there as well. Obviously, losing your dad and stuff as well. Like, and that's, you've had a lot of tough periods there too. Like, and I suppose, like, is there any kind of one period, I suppose, in particular where you felt like there was a lot going on for you, or maybe you're near a breaking point? And do you feel like, was there anything in particular that helped you through that? Because you were saying there, obviously, with rugby and the camaraderie, like when you go into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's literally one-on-one, and the guy across from you is like trying to pull your head off, like, as well.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel like, I suppose, through any of those tough times, or was there one in particular that's kind of stood out for you, or is there anything, I suppose, that helped you get through that?
Oh, biggest lesson that comes to mind was when I had my leg snapped kicked. I remember hobbling out of the school where the horse was going fucking mental, my ex-missus, and I lived on a farm, so I was trying to get the farmer to get a shotgun to shoot it, yeah? And I rang my mum, screaming down that I've lost my rugby career. It hurt, but I didn't care about my pain. I cared that I'd fought 8 years to get a rugby contract, yeah? And then with 8 weeks into pre-season, smashing it. And then I've done the adult thing of trying to protect my ex-partner, and I got fucked for it, yeah? I remember being sat on a gurney inside of Hereford Hospital, and the lady said to me, "Oh, don't worry, you've had a kick, but you'll be fine, don't worry." And she picked up my foot and she just kept walking. She walked out to not 90 degrees, but over 45 degrees. Like, my knee was fucking hanging on. I had an LCL left, that was it. Everything else was gone, yeah? And I remember being sat there, and I was wearing a pair of trousers that I'd had since I was 16, a top that I'd been given at a fucking car boot sale because I'd selling shit 'cause I had no money. I was so unhappy. Like if I took rugby away from me, I was so unhappy, and I couldn't acknowledge it. Me and my ex-partner outgrew each other years before then, and my gut had told me for fucking ages. It said, mate, you are not happy, man. What you need to get out of it. What would happen if you did this? What would happen if you do that? And I never listened because I felt like I was a protector, and I felt like I was being a pussy and actually, to be honest, through what was it? Can't remember how long, it wasn't long before that. I'd actually went and I got engaged because I felt socially obligated to. I've been with her 8 years. We just outgrown each other. Like, it was so toxic. When I look back, I'm like, how the fuck did you do that? Then I was inoculated to it. I went through so much shit, like, for no reason, and just being a stubborn prick. I was sat there on that gurney, and I just literally said to myself, like, you got two choices here. You're backing off and you're going to sink and you're totally gone, or you're going to get back and play rugby. Whatever they say to you, you be willing to lose your leg to play a rugby game. I've been very genuine. Like, I sat there when they told me, Derek Bickerstaff, shout out to him who did my knee. I asked him outright. I said, tell me I've got a 5% chance I could play. He said, no. I said, I legally can't tell you for insurance reasons. I said, give me 1%. He said, no, I can't for insurance reasons. And I remember literally going to myself, if I don't take charge of my own fucking life here and stop looking after everybody else, I'm never getting there. So I was working 3 jobs, playing semi-pro rugby. I was working in an autistic school as a bodyguard. I was working as a PT. I was doing all work farming. I was doing loads of random shit, just trying to survive, to make sure that we rented this farm. It looked like we had cash. I had nothing, like fuck all in my bank account. It was just getting rinsed. And the biggest moment then was when I had my operation in July, had my operation in August, and then I moved to Doncaster on my own because I was living in Hereford, so it's about a 3-hour drive. And I used to come back down on the weekend. And then one weekend in January, we just argued all day on a Saturday, on the Friday night, the Saturday. And then the Saturday night, she lost her mind with me. Sunday, what was it, Sunday morning? No, it was Saturday night. Just something in me went, mate. I just went, fuck this. I have to run. There's only one way of doing this, and that's getting out of it. I can't try it, because I was trying desperately. We had torrid time when we were younger, man. Like, we'd gone through a lot together, so it was very difficult for me because I wasn't looking at the actual literal in front of me. I was looking at what we'd been through. Yeah, I said, I'm worth more than this. So I just fucking literally picked up my dog, the only thing in the house, my clothes on my back, and I moved back to Donny with nothing, 0 clothes, fuck all. And I remember being sat on the sofa in Dan Smith's house. Shout out to him, mate. We had a thing, DSFL means Dan Smith and Foden for life. We used to take the piss out of that when we were little. And he went to bed and he said, mate, you made the right decision. And I just fucking was all over the shop, mate. Gone emotionally, but I'd been weird about it. In the car on the way up there, I was in tears, laughing my head off. It was so weird. But this is the thing where I was so fascinated by the mind now. But then, mate, I was like the biggest relief. Anyway, at that moment, that's the moment where I knew that was chips on the table. And also emotionally, I'd said to myself that relationship was done. I said, this is the only way I'm going to get away from it now is because I've got this is the size of the wedge that I need to leave. If I'm being honest, I still wasn't a man enough to ring her right then and say, this is fucking over forever. Yeah. We were like, we're going on a break. Fast forward, we got longer and longer from seeing each other. And then suddenly it was just like, hang on a minute, we're good. And then hang on a minute. And then ages passed and there's loads of other BS that happened afterwards, which is not, again, layman's terms, I'd made the right decision. So I was that point, I'd committed to being by myself. But that one moment of caring for it sounds weird, like looking back on it now, the only thing that kept me going, mate, was my dog. Like, and my family, I was lucky. My parents were like fucking all in, mate. My parents looked like, I'm from a very loving family and they looked after me, and my mum and my dad were at all costs, mate, would look after me. My mum fucking took a loan out and paid for a game ready for my knee. That's the only reason why I could walk again. So like, I'm very lucky to have had a unit that looked after me. But yeah, that was the moment where I realized that I had to take charge of my own fucking life because no one else was going to. And then that was it. I overcame so many different hurdles physically to get back on the pitch, but more emotionally, I grew as a man in that moment more than anything.
Yeah. That's mega. I mean, I think for a lot of lads listening, they would resonate with that story, and it's just the uncertainty with making such big decisions like that keep lads stuck. It's almost like they're afraid of the consequences that will come afterwards as well, and it's about, I suppose, reminding guys as well that regardless of the decision that you make, like, I suppose nearly anything is worse than just staying miserable and stuck in the situation that you're in. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah.
Stagnant's the worst place for me.
Mm.
It's stagnant water only rots even more. Good analogy for me and you, mate, is if you fucking leave a protein shake in the car, mate, and you don't wash it, what happens? Turns minging. That's your emotions, boss, yeah?
Yeah.
And that's where
100%.
most people don't recognize is like you are responsible for everything that's happening to you. No matter if it's like I had this question with a lady before. I had a call with an incredible woman who's a cognitive specialist in environments. She's how do you build architecture that can help with stress management? And she's a super interesting lady. And we were saying that is like the ability for you to take responsibility of those negative situations gives you power. Like, the amount of people that say to me negative things about my past and my previous relationship, and I laugh about it. I'm like, no, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me, apart from losing my dad. But the strength it gave me, mate. I mean, I've done some stupid shit physically. Finished an Ironman. I had my lung collapse in an Ironman. I finished 16K nearly having a heart attack. You weren't going to break me. My level of resilience stemmed from my lack of latent. I'm just not going to fucking quit. Now, sometimes it's bad. Like, then it put me physically to my limit, and I'm very grateful I didn't fucking snuff it. But my point is, my resilience stemmed from that one moment of I deserve to be fucking happy. I'm not here to be. And I think so many men sit there and expect life to give them everything. Like, life's it's gonna fall in front of you. You're gonna fall into happiness, mate. I'm with the most amazing lady now who is like everything I need in a woman. But every day I work on my relationship, not because she's perfect or I'm perfect or our family's perfect. Fucking hell, my kid's teething has been a weapon. But emotionally, I'm responsible for my unit, and I know that now. And back in the day, I gave my responsibility to somebody else. My happiness was driven off someone else, and that's why I got treated like a wanker. It wasn't her fault. I didn't respect me. People, especially men themselves, because men seek power, women seek safety. Yeah, it's actually like a hormonal thing. Men have got high levels of testosterone. There's a tribal mechanism. Female have got high levels of estrogen, but that's why females are way better in groups. Men are shit unless they are away because they don't feel safe. Because their natural tendency is to be a fucking tough bastard, and on the internet they don't train that. They think people are gifted. Like, I'm not fucking gifted, man. Like, I'm from. My dad worked it like a fucking mule. My mum worked like is a nutter. She won't stop, but I'm driven through work. But if you're asking me, like from a power perspective, your gut will be telling you what you need to do. Fucking listen. Because I did not listen. And I've done that my whole life until this year. I had mental performance coach from Tom Foxley. Shout out to him, legend, talking about making big decisions that I had to make inside of my company. And it stemmed back to a gut instinct. I already knew what to fucking do. I just wasn't pulling the trigger because I wasn't listening. That's where the level of self-awareness is missing in men's mental health at the moment. Is men they don't know themselves enough. So they rely on somebody else for their happiness. And then they're unhappy that they're not happy. It's fucking weird, mate. It's so hard.
You talked a lot about adversity there. Have you ever read the book Man's Search for Meaning?
Yeah. Frankel stuff, mate. What an animal, mate.
There's a quote in that I love. The quote is actually by Friedrich Nietzsche, who's another like psychologist as well. It's he who has a why to live for will bear almost any how.
Yeah.
And it's basically just down to if your why is strong enough, like, you'll get through that shit time or those tough times.
Yeah.
I actually love it so much. I got a tattoo on my arm.
Mega. I'll go one further on that one because I feel something that is really prevalent. Yeah, is asking somebody what their why is at a certain age is fucking obvious in my head. I've got a kid. Yeah, I'm sat here grinding my tits off to make more money because I want more opportunity for my family. That's my why. Most men struggle with the what to fucking do with it. And this is the thing, is they don't know what to do. They don't know the actions that are going to create the conditions to be able to actualize their why. And that's where that's the gap, man. That's the white space that people are forgetting at the moment. Is like, it happens a lot in leadership. Yeah, like leadership's all about what's your why, what's your mission in your company. It's all like Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing and like self-actualization.
Yeah.
But men struggle with what they forget. Like, men get in a group and train hard together. I guarantee 50% of the problems gone in one session after 1 hour. You ring your mate who you're having a bad day at work. You ring someone who you know you can have a good crack with. Simon Sinek says it's an 8-minute friend. Ring him for 8 minutes and I guarantee life's better. We look through life through a straw and then we wonder why we're so fucking like overwhelmed. Whereas actually your happiness is again, it's a what thing. It's what makes you happy. If you don't know what makes you happy and what makes you set on fire, that's your fucking job, because your why should be pretty. It doesn't need to be so. You don't need to have a why like Elon Musk. Like, I would not want his fucking life. Fuck that. No way, bro. Yeah, but guy's an animal, but just not my vibe. I want to have a Saturday, Sunday, having a barbecue and going in the mountains, mate. I don't want to be pissing around doing work. So I feel like if men are sat there and they're struggling with, okay, cool, I've got a why, but I don't know what to do, you need to find some actions that you can utilize. That's something that is going to make a world of difference, because then once you've got a why and you've got a what, pull the trigger and get on with it.
Yeah.
It seems easy. It's harder to do, but once you start doing it, it's like let's
pull the finger out and get going. You touched a bit there on business leaders and taking action. I suppose you work with a lot of business leaders and CEOs now at the moment as well. I suppose, do you find like there's any patterns you see in men who are successful with their work but they struggle with their health or their lifestyle as a consequence of the work that they're doing?
Oh, the mindset of being all in usually is the reason why men struggle with their physical health, not their professional ambition. They don't understand the reason why I went from I've got 20 years in the human performance space. Strength and conditioning and nutrition are my main levers. Yeah, I moved to Singapore and then I went from coaching as a strength and conditioning coach at a high school and working in a physiotherapy practice and running my own stuff to working in the CBD. And my customers there were all heads of banks, heads of venture funds, heads of some of the biggest apps in Southeast Asia. And the thing that really fascinated me was that question. These lot are the most intelligent people I've met in my life. There was a geezer there who was building lasers for phones 8 years ago. That was like when they started making 5G. But before that, he was like the pioneer of it. And you're looking at him like, mate, you could fucking do whatever you wanted, but still didn't understand the principles of health. The thing is because what they don't understand is that they don't understand that they all intertwine. Most men think, I'm out of shape, right, I'm going to cut more calories. But none of them have ever tracked their food. None of them understand energy availability. None of them understand that the training they're doing glycolytic training and not having any carbohydrates. That's why they're getting fatter, is because they're increasing stress physiology. The visual's not matching the audio with their actions and their outcomes. And what they're doing is they're not playing the game of pull these levers, I'm going to get this outcome, and being patient. They go, I'm going to fucking attack everything. Full send. The amount of men who I've worked with who think they're fucking hard, you put them on an assault bike and they've got fucking 6 minutes in them. And you're like, mate, you're running around thrashing yourself about like a dickhead to show off. You've got a 60 kilo bench press and you can run in your 12-minute VO2 max test. I reckon you've got about 2K. You're weak, fat and slow. Stop acting. It's not an emotional thing. It's a physiological one. Most of the guys and ladies who I work with, they are trying desperately hard to spin so many plates, but I've got zero understanding of what levers to pull. And that's kind of where my speciality came from, was building infrastructure around that was key. Did they think they've got a sleep problem? But reality is that they've got a nutrition availability problem, a lack of nervous system regulation. And also they are not periodizing their week. So they've got uptime and downtime. So they're always chasing this burnout curve. Most are either training like they were 20, or they're taking on information that's not relevant for their journey. That's the two biggest bottlenecks for it. But it's not just business leaders. It's still, I think it's most people. And that's where people get frustrated. Is ChatGPT is easy, man. Just fucking put it in there and ask them. Why is not everybody walking around like Ronnie Coleman or Peter Andre and happy as fuck? It's because they can't integrate it. And that's the speciality. And that's something that I pride myself on, is that I can see into somebody's process physiologically and psychologically. And I can show them, I could literally draw it on an iPad for them, or I could tell them what to do. And I can guarantee I can change it. Not because I'm a wizard, but because I've got experience and I've seen the biggest lever to pull. And that's where most business leaders live in absolutes. It's no such thing. You can't live in absolutes, especially if you're growing a business, want to be good at home, want to be happy on the move, you want to be in good nick, you want to have good recovery, you want to have time with your friends, make more money, have more freedom, have more impact. You're chasing fucking everything, man. So you're expected to be a specialist in all that. Not happening, boss.
Yeah. It's like there's so much going on around them, but yeah, they can't just focus on this one thing. Like, they've all been so successful to a certain point that their health slips, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm a fat mess now at the moment. It's like, how do I regulate that? Or I'll follow some guy's plan or whatever that's put up online and I'll be fine. But then it's nearly until they reach crisis point in a way as well with their health that they don't start to take the finger until they start.
Men have to break.
Yeah.
Because societal expectation of a man is that he's not a pussy. And in a masculine context, being a pussy is asking for help. Whereas the most powerful people I've ever met in my life, professional athletes to CEOs who I've worked with, people that have sold companies for hundreds of millions. I've worked with people that are changing shit in medicine across the world, investing companies, whatever. The difference between good and elite is they treat a corporate athlete treats themselves like an athlete, and an athlete has a team behind them. If you looked at a professional sportsman or a sportsman in Gaelic football, so you've got physios, head coaches, attack coaches, defense coaches, you've got nutritionists, you've got mental performance coaches at the top level, but yet people who are trying to grow a business internationally and at a global scale still think they can suffer alone. That's the piece, and the Benny Brown talks around vulnerability in leadership, and anybody listening to this who wants to learn more about leadership from a high performance standpoint, her and Adam Grant are fucking awesome, because they realize that high performance is not a fight. High performance is a dance, and it's learning when to push and pull. Now, I can't dance for shit. I can metaphorically dance, but that's the thing. I've got a sick worm when I'm on a piss though. But
see that the next time.
Yeah, very well. But this is what I think a lot of people are struggling with, is the only time they think resilience is a chronic thing. They think that I need to be resilient. Resilience is acute. It happens and it stops. Whereas most men think life is tough, life is a grind. I've got to fucking hustle my ass and all this other shit.
Yeah.
I've got people that have come to me before and they're like sending me David Goggins. And I'm like, he is an incredible man. Yeah. Like absolute fucking nutter. Variable outlier who is highly focused on his outputs and his exploration of his capacity. He does not take people into consideration. A dad running a business with 2 kids, a missus who has a small job or no job, other responsibilities from a family standpoint, and you're telling him to go and stay hard, don't sleep, fucking run 300k on a cereal bar, and don't eat a cereal bar because cereal's fat for you and you're a fat prick. And that's not. It's like anything. People are looking at it from an absolute standpoint, where the reality is a man who is fallen off the wagon has forgotten the things that give him power and the things that are going to actually keep him in the game. And that comes down to your standards. That comes down to your connection with your capacity to be a protector. I think I've got a thing in. I'm old school, man. If some shit happens, if shit gets real, mate, I'm an asset. It doesn't matter what that means, whether someone's, I don't know, fuck knows, attacking my house or my friends are in trouble or my mum needs me. I don't want to be the liability. Now I've left sport. That's what I train for. I train because I want to do jiu-jitsu, but I want to be the dad that fucks shit up at sports day. But men need to have to feel capable, and like they're oh yeah, I'm too old for this. That's a load of fucking bullshit excuses you tell yourself because it's easier not to. Yeah. Taking the harder road is the one that gives you so much more vigor and enthusiasm. It's because men need challenge. Men need pressure. Men need to have. Women do too. They're not just blasting men. I know this is a male podcast, but just any females listening too. I still believe that females are in the same bucket. My wife is an ex-GB athlete. She's training for a half Ironman at the moment. I've never seen her so dialed in for 4 years. 2 years since having a baby. It's the sexiest thing fucking ever. Because it's like, actually, she's giving a shit. Yeah. I think like men forget that too. Like, if you don't want this to be easy. Because if it was easy, it'd be boring. And that's where I think men get lost massively.
You touch base on men that are, I suppose, struggling to get dialed in, or I suppose struggling in general, like with their health or maybe emotional regularity or whatever. Like for you, where do you feel they should start with, trying to get out of the hole that they're in or break that cycle that's keeping them stuck?
I think if you ask me, like, gun to my head, there's loads of levers you can pull, but it's actually finding some form of routine. I think what most men do is they're reactive. But there's two sides of that. They're reactive, but yet they're brittle. They have an example. I'm going to train every morning at 6 a.m. Yeah, and I'm going to do an hour. Kid's sick. Missus is fucked. What do? Still go and train? Probably not. You go and walk. But your association was, I've just broke my promise, so I'm going to throw it all in the bin. Compared to, fucking hell, she's melted, the kid's melted. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go for a shower. I'm going to get on the floor and do 100 press-ups. I'm then going to get in the shower. I'm going to take the kid out and give her some rest. Yes, you haven't done your perfect session, but you've kept your promise. Men have this weird connotation of like, what's their maximal standard is the only way, where I'm the exact opposite. What's your minimum threshold standard? I always say, like, for people, that anybody that walks into my world is like, physiology dictates the pace of your psychology. You can't outthink a shit body. It doesn't matter. Like, you can't think yourself to health. Yeah. So some simple guidelines around your morning routine. Are you getting sunlight within the first 30 minutes? Are you hydrating first thing in the morning before you caffeinate? Are you creating or connecting before you consume anything? So many people get on their phone first thing in the morning, and apart from it hijacks your brain from a brainwave status and actually it stops you focusing, you're digesting bullshit of someone else's rather than the thing that you love, which should be something for you, something for your spouse, or something with your kids. That bit of the day there, then you're going to get someone which will say, oh yeah, but such and such has got school and da-da-da-da-da. You're talking at maximums again. What's your minimum? My minimum is I get up anytime before 6:30. I get up at 5:45 every morning. If the boy's up before 6:30, he's mine. I give my wife a break. Why? Because I value having connection with my son. I'm not an online coach that's like, I'm doing 4-hour work week in Bali, having a pina colada, not talking to anybody. I coach. I'm elite level at coaching. I interact with my customers all day because I believe that this is why I'm operating in the space that I'm in. But that first part of my day is my son's. It's not always my wife's. It's not some weapon on fucking Instagram blasting bullshit about stuff that I can't affect. I think men do that. They lose their routine, and then they seek really, really shallow fixes, whether it's food, whether it's porn, whether it's chatting shit, whether it's the amount of people. I've met a geezer. I'm doing a lot of work on like passion and purpose at the moment, because it dictates communication skills is the reason why. It's like you're trying to give people a link between meaning is massive, because intent drives meaning. Yeah. The amount of men who I find who are between the ages of 40 and 50 who are doing weird shit because they're trying to find meaning in something again because they've lost it is mad. And they're not doing the basics. They're not remembering who they are. They're not remembering what physiologically makes you tick. They're like, I'm going to suddenly go and do an ayahuasca retreat because I need to find myself again. But you haven't eaten a fucking real meal properly with your family or connect with your mates in weeks, but you're willing to go. It's weird, mate. Weird. So yeah. One skill I would say, shorten the gap between doing and not doing, and bookend your day. Protect your energy first thing in the morning, protect your energy at night. Find connection at both ends of the day. The rest of the day will sort itself out. Yeah, we can talk about gym and all that shit. I think that's like a given. But from a person, for someone who wants to go from surviving to a form of thriving, having that morning on your terms, mate, at all costs, promise you, it change your life.
I love that. And you spoke a lot about values as well. And I think that's something that I work a lot with my kind of one-to-one mindset clients, is that like we need to identify what you value in your life, and that will bring that clarity and fulfillment back into it. And then instead of like men just aimlessly going day to day trying to get those quick fixes or trying to get that dopamine hit from doing a stupid workout that they're not going to be able to maintain, like, and it just doesn't make any sense now. And I suppose, Will, like, looking back at your life now as both a dad, a coach, a former athlete, what does success mean to you now compared to maybe a couple of years ago when you were an athlete?
Success back when I was an athlete was reaching the goal. But every time that I reached the goal, I was unfulfilled. Every single time. I want to play pro. I've got my contract. Okay, fine. Snap my leg in half. I'm going to come back and play. The other two blokes who dislocated their knee that year never played again. I got back in 10 months. Wasn't happy that I wasn't starting. Got into professional sport. It's something that I went back to semi-pro sport. I was unfulfilled because I hadn't played Premiership. I moved to Singapore. I grew a business. I wanted to double it because suddenly it was easy. I had it in my company as well. I 3x my company my first year when I moved back home, and I was so fucking bored. I was like, "What's the point?" So most people that associate with high achievement think the achievement is what you're doing, and it's so cliche, mate. But the thing that I focus on now is deliberate practice and being very focused on what I've got to do and execute on that day. You mentioned earlier in the conversation about uncertainty. My relationship with uncertainty has massively changed. From I used to be very anxious about uncertainty, now I seek it, because if I don't have, if people talk about imposter syndrome and this kind of stuff, like if I don't have imposter syndrome, I'm not pushing hard enough, because I want to express and expand. And expansion comes from growth and being in the scary bit, which is like, oh, fucking hell, have I got this in the locker? Am I really good enough for this? Am I better for this? When you talk about psychology of it, for like emotional, your amygdala and all that kind of stuff, I between then it was a case of it was all around the outcome. Now it's content with the level of work that I'm delivering, but I also measure my week on KPIs of what I'm doing, but how did I feel when I was doing it? And it's actually an oxymoron, because I'm more effective now than I ever have been. But I also find it the most uncomfortable thing ever, because I've been driven by hard work and hustle. So I was the kind of PT, man. I'd bosh out 12 PT sessions, mate. And I'd still train hard. I would, as I said, training for me has always been an outlet. So that's a given. Now, mate, it's like, know my minimum dose, know what, and what's actually pushing the boat forward. And am I enjoying it? Because it's easy. I've made multiple times. I've chased the golden carrot of like online PT. Cool, you get to a certain amount, right? I'm gonna do an 8-week shred challenge. I got no fucking interest in that shit. I've done it because you see people wanting to make loads of money. Then I'm bored as fuck. Like, it's not my vibe. I specialize in such a niche subject, because every time I talk about it, I get fucking geared up. I'm with someone. I want someone to be like, wheels on my back. Let's fucking do this shit. Like, that gets me off. So yeah, that's what I would say is back in the day, it was all outcome driven. Now I am still outcome driven, but it doesn't dictate everything for me. It's how I get there is what's more important.
Yeah, I love that piece, because you put up a LinkedIn post there a while back about the uncertainty, and not necessarily, I suppose, chasing that imposter syndrome, but when it does come, it's like, right, it's game on here now. I need to be at my best. But I suppose I'm okay with not having to go all in on this either, and just being like, okay, am I still doing what I can to better myself, or am I being stagnant and just playing it safe?
Yeah. I think
That's something I think a lot of lads do, is they just tend to play it safe and just like, yeah, it'll be fine. And look, it's okay in certain circumstances, but when you're either feeling down or feeling shit, or things just aren't going your way, it's like, right, I need to kind of get my ass back in gear here again.
yeah. There's a book called The Gap in the Game, which basically says most people they'll measure themselves from where they are right now to their end outcome, and that gap in the middle of it always looks like you're trying to climb up Everest. If you look at where you are right now and how far you've come, but recognize how far you need to go, that's the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset. Yeah. So most entrepreneurial people are venturing into uncharted territory on purpose, without the following of giving themselves any form of credit of how far they've come. Now, that's not saying pat yourself on the back every single day. That's saying that when shit's getting real, mate, I want to be on my fucking metal. It's like rugby. We step over the whitewash, mate. It's war. I step into my office. Business is competitive sport, mate. It's a blood sport, man. And you are going to get beaten up, but that's the joy. Is the person you become whilst getting your face filled in. Whereas I think a lot of people, like you said, if they're playing it safe, yeah, it's a gut check, man. You'll know.
Yeah.
People always look back, or people don't listen to their inner dialogue, and the only time they listen to it is when they're scared. So when stress physiology hits, inner dialogue starts to implode, and you start to look in, and you start to catastrophize and break yourself and get overwhelmed, frustrated, pissed off, anxious, freeze. Elite level operators can take that, and we turn it into a challenge response. It's like, hang on a minute, fucking, it's go time. And that's a trained skill. And that comes from doing hard things and pushing buttons and asking yourself the question, am I taking the easy route here? Easy route, what analogy, fucking hard times build strong men, weak times don't, yeah? It's the same thing with actions. Is the hard thing's the right thing. The wrong thing, we will just make it harder later on. You can't beat the system. That's just the game. And men are still trying to find the secret code of how can I have it all? You can't have it all, man. You can't have it all. You want a fucking good life, it's going to be tough as shit.
It's almost like they're looking for that elevator lift up to the top of Everest. It's like,
yeah,
no,
and
no such
it's
thing.
like no such thing. Most men, especially, will tell their kids that, but they won't act themselves. You see what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, you could be anything you want to be, but it's going to be really hard. And then they're sat there wanting to be anything they want to be and not willing to do the hard work. It's fucking weird. Now, I work with people who are like the 5% who are the opposite, who are like, they're willing to work until their eyes bleed, but they're also on their second marriage because they've been a fucking arsehole at home. So it's the opposite way around. It's her learning where to be. Todd Herman is used to be Kobe Bryant's psychologist.
Yes.
He's the one who built the Black Mamba identity. Yeah. Basically, when he went over the whitewash, he was the Black Mamba and he came off as somebody else. It talks around fields of play. You are a different person, and I'm a different person being here talking to you than I am going to go pick my kid up from nursery. Then if I go into a training, I just front squatting heavy after a hip issue, fucking I was straight back into the trenches, attacking, screaming at myself, saying, lift the motherfucker. You got to be somebody different. Most men are, I mean, it's not just men. Most people forget that you aren't just one person and you're not just living one life. You're living multiple lives at the same time. You're a dad, you're a husband, you're a fucking friend, you're an athlete, you're you. They don't acknowledge that. They're willing to self-sacrifice for everybody else but themselves. That's just because they haven't given themselves the courage to say, I want something. It's they're being indecisive. It's because they're scared. Whereas you can't have confidence without courage. You have to have courage to dive, and then you get confidence because you can do it, not the other way around. You can't have confidence before you do the thing. It's impossible. So it's not, and I think a lot of men are measuring up against, as I said, around archetypes. Oh, fucking, as I said, Goggins or Rambo or like proper masculine. Arnie, we'll talk real fucking, but it's like, we are saying that, but we're also not. We're saying like, what's the best version of you?
Yeah. And that's different for everyone then as well.
Yeah. And what makes me happy might not make you happy. Now, we're rugby players and we're wired very similarly, and we're fucking weird, mate. So we probably do get off of the same shit. But other people, yeah, is they are looking in, especially all this bullshit on like so many people spend so much time consuming shit. And this is the cool thing about doing a podcast, mate, is I love it, but in the relation to is it's contextual. And someone can explore this alongside us and actually think compared to watching a 60-second snippet that changes frames every fucking 3 seconds with some spastic fucking telling you that you need to be taking all these supplements and GLP-1s and you need to be a hard motherfucker and get up at 3 a.m. and be more productive, and shut the fuck up and just stop wasting your life on other people's shit. Like my friend of mine, Andy McKenzie's a old school strength coach, one of the best. Like I used to mentor when I was younger. He taught me connection over consumption always. And he's not if you're old school strength coach in the UK, you'll know him. He's a fucking G. But he's not famous because he's like he's dad of 2 kids, mate. An animal in relation to bodyweight stuff. It's that really I've lived by that forever. It's like I'd much rather have a small close knit of friends I can have a laugh with, a barbecue, walk in the mountains and train hard with, than 300,000 followers who are now all going to be AI bots who are just going to be people, narcissists on the internet. Fuck that. That's not a vibe for me.
It's almost like when I think or look at it that way, I suppose when you're saying about influencers and their follower account and all this sort of stuff, it's like how many of them are going to show up to your funeral if you die in the morning? So it's so superficial. It's kind of scary in a way because like there's a woman that I came across there recently in the gym I'm working in. She's like, well, my name is, I won't say it now just in case it gets back to class. She's like, I've got the woman that was with her is like, oh, she has 10,000 followers on Instagram. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, your name is Mary from down the road there. That's I'm not going to treat you any differently than anyone else is there. It's like, you expecting like free membership or something, or
and if you've got 10,000 followers, what's it for? You Mother
Yeah.
Teresa? No. If you just got a great ass on the internet that 55% of people that are watching you are below the ages of 16 beating out to you, great, congratulate. That's not. It's weird, mate. I've never wanted to be famous. Like I don't want all the bullshit that comes with it.
Yeah.
Social media is a selling platform for me. That's it. People forget that. Everyone's like, oh yeah, you got to be authentic. How many people are being fucking authentic where the second sentence that comes out of their mouth is, how do I maximize the algorithm? That's not authentic. You're bending over for a fucking thing. So stop pretending that this isn't a game. Social media is a game. And it's the best thing that happened for people's social connection superficially. But from a deep connection standpoint, it's the fucking worst, mate. It's people are taking 2 and 2 and making 27. They now everybody's got an opinion on shit that they don't even understand. There's people like driving hatred into the world because it maximizes profit on their. It's such a weird, and it's just not. I don't dislike social media. I love social media. I scroll Instagram and I do LinkedIn and stuff. What I'm saying is people do that instead of having own connection with people and deep connection with people, and that's why they're fucking lost. Is because they're, oh yeah, but Joe Bloggs is doing that. He's taking peptides. This and what fucking degree does he have about peptides? He's taking everything and telling you that he's having organic chicken and GPC, whatever. Like, shut up, man. That's the thing is people are they're forgetting that what makes you human is social connection. Social connection is one of the biggest drivers of stress physiology in relation to bringing it down and stabilizing your CNS. That's why back in the day, this is a huge one. Is right now there's a big stare out drinking. Yeah, no one goes out on the piss. Everyone's drinking fucking celery juice and this kind of stuff. But when you were younger, when your parents were younger, the amount of social connection and fun times they had at the pub, and there wasn't any of this mental health bullshit going on.
Yeah.
They were going out and getting fucking wasted and having a laugh. How many men are sat there chopping piss by themselves, scrolling on shite and feeling lost, overwhelmed, and hating what they're doing? They're not seeing people, or they're trying to be perfect. Now, I don't personally drink because I can't have a hangover. My son gets up at 4 in the fucking morning sometimes, so I don't drink because it's not because I think alcohol's a demon. It's just because I'd love to have a beer. But that social connection piece is the biggest thing that's going to come out right now from right this minute in 2026. The biggest currency for most people will be connection because AI is going to clear up all the rest of it, and which is good.
Yeah.
I think AI is great, but don't pretend like if you're struggling, media channels aren't going to save you. You have to save yourself, and that comes from knowing what makes you tick.
It's huge. I think you've literally captured the last 10 years in the last 2 minutes there. Well, a couple of quick fire questions to round it off. We've probably touched base on a few of these already, but if you have any other different opinions or whatever on them, just shout. So, quick fire question one anyway. One habit
has changed my life. Downloading an app called Opal on my phone. It blocks all social media, and I now cannot access social media between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. and then from 8 p.m. until 9:30. So it makes sure I stay on plan with work. If I want to access LinkedIn or somewhere, I have to do it by my computer. And you don't scroll. If you're scrolling on your computer, you're a knob. Like most people scroll on the bog when they're having a shit, don't they? I reduced my screen time from 4.5 hours to 1 hour a day. So I saved 3 hours a day that I could put into not only my business, but seeing my family and all that kind of stuff. So that's been one of the biggest game changers of all of last year.
What's one piece of advice you live by now?
Be daring, be different, or be decisive. That's something my dad taught me when I was a kid, and I never understood it until I lost my dad. And he used to say it all the fucking time, and I didn't ever fucking get it. But I now understand. My dad came from nothing. He used to live in an old mining village where you go and sell antiques and fucking crockery, where my dad was a creative director of Jaguar Land Rover by the end of it, and he went through some mad shit, and he lived by that. And I watched him. I don't tell people. Everyone will say their dad's an animal and they're their favorite person, but fucking, my dad was a tough motherfucker, man. He went through so many redundancies, helping out, bringing my family. My mum's a tough lady too. I was about to call my mum a tough bitch then. I can call her that, but I won't call her that. She's a fucking animal as well. But yeah, be daring, be different, and be decisive, mate. If I'm ever stuck, I've got it written there. That's what I live on.
Be there, be different, be decisive. I love it.
Be daring, yeah.
And last one then, a message for any lad listening who's at rock bottom at the moment.
Whatever's going on in your life, you're responsible for, regardless of if you have control of it. Your association with control needs to change because you're in control of absolutely nothing in your life. So all you can do is take charge. The minute you change that frame, mate, game changer. If you're trying to take control of something before you make a move, never going to happen. You're not in control of your health. Something blindsides you. I lost my dad. My dad died in 4 weeks. Went from being fucking. He used to like he cycled 12K a day. My dad was in great nick, all good. Suddenly, they thought he had a pulmonary edema. It wasn't. It was lung cancer. 4 weeks from all good to fucked. Life, that's not control. I've got a genetic. He used to smoke 30 years ago, and it was like a ticking time bomb. And I've got a genetic defect. I've never smoked, so I don't have it. But basically, that's what killed him. Yeah. You thought you had control. You got no control. So stop trying to find it. The only thing you can control is you. Your next step, your next move, your next thing. You're taking charge of it. You're not controlling it because you don't know what's going to happen. But fucking, if you're at rock bottom right now, good. Because what's the next alternative? One step forward. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's huge. Will Foden, thanks very much for your time.
Mate, my pleasure, man. Always a pleasure working alongside you, mate.